Dun dun dun! Welcome back to the Sleepless and Metropolis podcast. Today is a big day, as you probably know by the title of this video or the date. It's Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. And today, we'll be ranking every single Star Wars movie from the prequels to the originals to the sequels to the Star Wars stories. Also, if you check out our YouTube, you'll be seeing a little post production later of the Mandalorian review. But before we get into it, let's start by doing a little get to know again. So, how was your day, Sam?
My day, you say?
Okay, Dr. Seuss.
My day was pretty good. Since we're all online schooling still, I woke up at like 1 o'clock, which was nice. You know,
Yeah,
just been hanging with the boys, and it's been a good time.
I had class at 10 a.m., so you are nice and lucky.
hmm
Sug, how was your day?
Uh, I can't complain so far. Haven't done too much, just mostly school stuff, but can't complain. Still doing
Nerd.
good. Thank you, Sam.
Did you have class?
No. Most of my classes aren't meeting per se. We're just getting the videos recorded and sent to us.
Must be nice.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. Don't actually have to follow any schedule. Kind of weird, but good. It gets the job done.
Joey, do your classes are they like an online video call?
Yeah, it's through the Zoom thing.
Yeah, I figured.
The studio class is really pointless. Not like pointless, but it's really annoying because like in studio you have a lot of time for the class, so you work while doing it.
Yeah.
But now it's just like talking on people's like drawings and stuff, and you do all the work for homework. So it's a little
Nice.
boring.
All right.
Guess
Today,
no one's had a very interesting day so far.
I mean, all the days are the same at this point, right?
That's true. That's true.
That's a good point. Not bad, but a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get into the ranking, let's discuss how the rules are going to work. So if you're listening on Spotify or any other device besides YouTube, we're just going to be ranking them from a star system of 1 through 5 stars. And in the description, we'll have our list of what our actual star rankings were. And at the end, we're going to add up how many stars there were total for each video to see which is the greatest movie. But if you're on YouTube, our little faces will pop up for how many stars under each movie. Got it, good. Okay, let's begin. We're going to go in chronological order. So we're going to start with the prequels. Starting with, drum roll please, The Phantom Menace.
All right.
So,
Who wants to start?
this could be a device, I don't know words. Okay.
I'll go.
Decisive.
I'll give this one
Yes.
a 2.5 out
Oh,
of
yes.
5.
Also, Sog doesn't like to follow just normal numbers, so he's using 0.5s,
I think it helps
But not-
me be more expressive.
but not 0.25s, just 0.5s.
Wait,
So he
could
makes
I have
our
done
work harder.
0.25s?
No.
No.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say that
See,
seems a lot of work.
Now we have to make a special Sug head that's cut in half.
The people will like that.
The people will not.
Okay, so 2.5 out of 5 for me for the Phantom Menace.
Sam?
I had this at a big boy 1 star.
Oh boy. I had it at a 2. So we're all different.
Okay,
Sug, I feel like you're a little generous with the 2.5,
Yeah.
don't you think?
I
You're definitely
agree,
generous.
but you know what? Other than Jar Jar, which, yeah, that's tough.
Miso Jar Jar.
Oh my god. The rest of this movie, I think holds up. Even the CGI, I don't know. I don't think it looks that awful. The Anakin stuff, it's not the best child actor, but it is what it is.
That's the kid from Jingle All the Way, so give him some credit.
You know,
Pod racing, I think the pod racing still looks cool.
The pod racing and the Qui-Gon Jinn Obi-Wan Darth Maul fight were the 2 pros that I had for this movie, and I think that was it.
Yeah.
that's basically what bumps it. Seeing
Also,
Anakin that young is kind of boring.
I agree,
Mhm.
but also him with the Jedi Council. I like that scene personally. The foreshadowing done with Yoda's speech there, that fear is the path to the dark side. I like all of that.
I love me some good foreshadowing.
Exactly. Who doesn't like some good foreshadowing? The stuff with Palpatine, if when you rewatch it now and see kind of the slight maneuvering stuff he does even starting at this point, it's kind of interesting.
The Palpatine stuff just feels so obvious, though.
It is. It is definitely more obvious.
Well, I think once you learn that he's the Emperor or like Darth Sidious, whatever, and you go and rewatch it, you notice the small things.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
He just
I think that's just like with anything.
Yeah.
He always seems suspicious to me.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but
And like, if he seems suspicious to me, how does he not seem suspicious to Yoda, who won't even let like a 9-year-old into the Jedi Order?
that's fair. That is fair. But yeah,
They brought Metachlorians into this, right?
I never minded midichlorians. Not that I'm for midichlorians, but I'm not against midichlorians.
I don't get the point of needing them.
I think it was just
like
to show
attempt.
It's definitely not well developed or even well brought up, but I think what he was trying to do, what George was trying to do, I think it made sense that like, okay, how do they discover these people? How do they like test these people? Obviously, the easiest way is just to be like, they feel it through the Force. They feel in the Force that these children have these powers and this gift. But he tried to do a more, I guess, bring more sci-fi elements into it. But,
yeah.
And I think just saying, oh, that they sense it in the Force is almost like the easy way out, you know?
Yeah.
Like if you can't think of anything, oh, it's the Force.
Yeah. So
For
I think
me,
it made sense that he tried to bring something in.
It just felt unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if they did it right, no one would complain.
Yeah. Though that can be said about any movie.
Yeah. I think, though, we can all agree the final battle and the whole Darth Maul stuff is the best part. Having Liam Neeson in it is pretty great.
Yeah.
And all that.
You know, when I was a kid and like this movie first came out, I didn't appreciate Liam Neeson enough.
That's the fact.
You know, now
that's true.
That we're older, I'm like, Liam Neeson, you know?
I respect that.
I wouldn't mind an Qui-Gon Jinn TV series. I think it'd be pretty dope.
Ooh.
That's like the only perk is like seeing Obi-Wan like young and inexperienced, and then having Qui-Gon was the only good part of having it set so far back.
Yeah.
Because like otherwise, I didn't need to know that about Anakin. You could have just showed me a flashback.
Yeah.
But I think what brings it the lowest though is the fact like you don't have like that special feeling with it when you watch it.
That's true.
Like, it doesn't have like that nostalgic feel.
See, it does for me now. Like it didn't obviously when I first watched it, and like even up until a few years ago. But now I have that nostalgia feeling, especially with the music, because the music's slightly different compared to other Star Wars movie, and it more brings me back to Lego Star Wars than anything else. Like, oh my gosh, I remember doing this. But
so without Lego Star Wars, Sug wouldn't have it.
Without Lego Star Wars, this would probably only be a 2 for me. I'm not gonna lie, but you know what? I do have Lego Star Wars, and it enhances the experience.
I think as a podcast, we need to just replay the Lego Star Wars, the complete saga.
I mean, the new one's coming out December of the complete Skywalker saga, but apparently they said they're supposed to be remaking most of the levels, so it's not going to be the same. The most divisive Star Wars movie ever created, I think. Attack of the Clones. That was sarcasm.
That makes more sense than sarcasm.
Yes. What you give this, Sam?
Well, you guys go first.
I gave this movie a 1.
I gave it a 1.
See, originally, I had it at 1 also. However, I'm kind of on the fence here. Because there are some scenes that I particularly like, and there are some people who I particularly like.
Sam.
Which make it tough for me.
That's a hot take.
Sam likes sand. Hot take.
I love sand.
Okay,
Sand is my favorite.
this movie is definitely great for memes.
That is true. Rewatching it now, the memes are pretty good in this movie.
I'm not gonna lie, I used to actually like think of it as it wasn't that bad because like you finally get to see the war and
Yeah,
like Jedi's. But then when I rewatch it, I'm like, it just feels so long.
yeah,
Everything felt so drawn out. Like, don't get me wrong, some of the fight scenes are really cool,
yeah,
Yeah.
but overall, it's like it like brings up the fact of like what was wrong with the prequels being too all about the council stuff and
yeah.
not enough about the Clone Wars.
I personally, I don't hate this movie, but I can't give it higher than a one. The dialogue, the effects, a lot of it's just not very good.
I
But
will agree with you. That is really bad.
I
Go on.
do think. I mean, Jango Fett's cool. Everything on
Yeah.
Camino, I actually do enjoy. That's a
Mhm.
standout. Um, other than that, Genosis, it's all right. Once the clones show up, it gets better. Once the Jedi and clones are fighting, I guess it's a little better. But even then, it's not great. Um, the Dooku fight is decent. The Dooku fight's cool. I'll give
Yeah.
it
I
that.
see. That was like what was a game changing, not game changing, but like it made me on the fence about where to put this
Yeah,
because the Count Dooku fight with Anakin and Obi-Wan, and then Yoda coming in later.
yeah,
I like it's just. I feel like it's like just a cool scene to watch, like just to enjoy. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Yeah.
if you're
Though,
really like trying to narrow
though a
down
lot of
like all
people
the
didn't
the
like.
important stuff, like
Yeah,
it's not really that good of a movie.
yeah. Though a lot
I
of
mean, I'd
people
rather
did
But
just
if
not
you
watch the
like.
just
clip.
if you just sit down and watch it,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would rather just
if you
watch
just
the
sit down
clip
and
of the
watch it,
fight.
yeah,
yeah, you're probably right. Like just because what else is really worthwhile in this movie?
And the problem is the fight makes you realize what the movie could have had the potential to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if I really haven't ranked it yet though. I
I
mean,
feel
it's
like
either gonna be one or two,
I
but
feel like if you followed the 0.5 rule, you would have put it at 1.5.
yeah, I would agree, but I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, because you're not Sug.
Do it.
I don't think I can honestly put it at a 2 star just because of one scene, you know.
Sand.
guess.
So I think I have to put it at one
It's
star.
a good scene.
Yeah, there
You're
was
down
one
to
good
1
scene that
star.
I enjoyed.
One
Yeah,
star.
I think I'm gonna have to go with one star.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think the problem is too. Then they made the Clone Wars TV show, and then you realize what you were missing out on even more.
That's
Yeah,
true. Which is
I think
a great
because of the
TV show.
lack of content is why it's at 1 star because it had
Yeah.
so much potential.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings us on to by far the best prequel,
Yes. Yes.
in my opinion, one of the better Star Wars movies,
Yes.
Revenge of the Sith.
Oh my gosh. That dramatic pause took me.
That
for
was
a
very
loop.
dramatic.
I always get really nervous saying Star Wars titles because there's a lot of R's, and
Yeah,
I feel like I'm gonna accidentally say the wrong one.
And you know what? Now too, between Rise of Skywalker and Revenge of the Sith, now two of them have the same acronym. Kind
Yeah.
of bothers me.
But there's
Oh my
Revenge of the Sith,
gosh.
Return of the Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, Rogue One.
Yeah, a lot of R's now.
Yeah,
a lot of ours. But anyway, let's rank it. Revenge of the Sith. For me,
I,
I
I
would
give
have
it a
4
pretty high
stars.
one.
I give
Yeah,
it
I have
4
it at
stars.
4. I
What?
think
So,
Sug's
what do you
0.5's coming into play.
Hold
Here
on,
we go.
Sam. What did you give it?
4.
Okay, I also gave it a 4. I think this is a strong movie, and there are definitely still moments of very bad dialogue, but at the
Mhm.
same time, I think this one actually got the point across, and I think it also actually had something of an emotional impact when Anakin
Yeah.
finally does make that transition into Darth Vader.
Those final scenes with Order 66 to the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those hit you right in the feels.
Yeah, from that point onward, you know what's going on.
It's
Yeah.
like it makes up for the prequels.
It does.
And then if you're like watching Clone Wars, the TV show, especially now, it really makes up for it. And then you
Yeah.
could just pretend you watched that, and then
Oh, It makes it so
Rise of the
much worse.
Sith,
It makes it so much worse watching Clone Wars all the way through to see
because then you really
that
watch
Anakin
Anakin.
character. And
Yeah,
he's a hero of the
Yeah.
Republic, and to see this turn is so much more brutal.
like at least Revenge of the Sith lets you realize he's a hero. Because if you watched any of the other movies, you would have just thought he was a bad Jedi
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
who just wanted power after a
Yeah.
while.
But I mean, going through scenes in this movie, I mean, the beginning fight in space above Coruscant. I mean, I enjoy that still.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like the fights when they're like in their own ships and they're gunning down
Yeah,
people. It's different.
I
everything on
do. They just
Grievous.
have to make sure it's not too long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything on Grievous's ship. I
Yeah.
honestly still enjoy. I think it's pretty good. And then from there, once Anakin's now on Coruscant for pretty much the rest of the movie until he goes to Mustafar, and then Obi-Wan on Utappa, I think is just really good. And even in because they don't have that many scenes together after the beginning, Obi-Wan and
Yeah,
Anakin, but they're
Yeah,
also
because
still able to portray their friendship, which I think is really cool. That it actually comes across and then hits so much harder later at the end of the movie when they actually do fight.
the biggest problem I think with the movie though, besides like having that like prequel part to it,
Mm.
is that it messes a little bit with the continuity of like age.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
because Obi-Wan goes from pretty young still to a real old guy in like 20 years.
Well, I'm gonna bring this up later too, but how is it? Okay,
I
everyone
know. I know
knew
what you're gonna say.
knew of the Jedi. I mean, they were the ruling power this whole time. Then, according the story that the public know is that the Jedi betrayed the Republic, and then Palpatine saved the Republic and turned it into the Empire. Luke's what 18, 19 in A New Hope?
He's like 20.
Is he? Either way, that is not a long enough time for the entire galaxy to forget about a bunch of space wizards that used to rule the entire galaxy.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like, how is it that from there on they just become a myth? Like, I like the idea that they've become a myth, but like, 20 years is not long enough time for people to forget a bunch of space wizards that have laser swords.
yeah.
Like, that's insane
Here's
to me.
here's the thing. That's not just a prequel thing. I don't think. I think that's
It's
just
just like Star
No,
Wars thing.
yeah, that's just a Star
yeah.
Wars
That's just
thing.
a Star Wars thing in general.
Like even in The Mandalorian, like
Yeah.
they don't know who Jedi are even after that. Even though some people know of Luke Skywalker,
Yeah, that was
but
the weird part about The Mandalorian.
well, people know about Luke Skywalker, but they don't necessarily know that he's a Jedi. They just know him as a war hero and a leader. Because even in
But they still know about Mandalorians, and like, they've
that
been
is
gone
true.
since
Yeah,
like
they've
Jedi
been gone
time.
for a hot minute too. Well, they're also fighting in Rebels on Mandalore to try and take control
Yeah.
because the different sects. But Mandalore itself, yeah, is taking a backseat. But
They
even
bring up
in
how the Jedi killed them all, so.
yeah, but it's very strange, honestly.
I
The
think it's because
continuity.
like George Lucas admitted he didn't know where to take it.
Yeah,
Like that's why Luke kisses Leia.
yeah.
What, you
Tough.
didn't enjoy that part, Joey?
Whoa there. Calm down, Sam.
Okay, Sam. I think the only other downside, which isn't a downside with the movie, it's like a downside of the continuity, is how like cool lightsaber battles can be.
Yeah,
See, I
I agree.
personally like that. I think, you know what? Give it 20 years or so. Obi-Wan's older. Darth Vader is in this full suit, can't particularly move around as well. You know what? I think their fight would be like that. I'm
Well,
okay with that. Like
the thing,
like two old samurai. Like maybe when they're younger, they're doing flips and stuff all around, but when they're older, it's just a simple battle.
yeah, but I
It's
have
more a
one
mind game.
I have like one argument about that. Is you see Darth Vader in Rogue One,
That's true.
and it makes you think, and then they have the Darth Vader tie-in comics, and then you're like,
Yeah, yeah.
like that's not
That's fair.
important right now. We'll get to that when we get farther in.
yeah.
Yeah,
Also, that's what I do appreciate. I think about the prequels the most is how well they did the lightsaber battles.
Yeah,
Because it's just like I think Grievous is the perfect example.
yeah.
Just because he's wielding 4 lightsabers at once, and it just shows like how cool they can make it. And I think Grievous is a perfect example because I know he was always me and my brother's favorite
Yeah.
character growing up.
Real quick though, what is your favorite prequel meme?
I like the do it ones the best.
You like what?
The do it.
Oh, Do It is good, yeah.
Okay.
I think mine is Hello There,
General Kenobi.
General Kenobi.
I'm surprised they have never brought Mace Windu.
Yeah. Everybody knows Samuel L. Jackson, Mace Windu, the man. I feel like I'm sounding more like a broken record at this point if I just keep bringing him up all the time.
That's
You
fair.
know what? Before we move on, let's do a little poll. The comments can join in too. But what is your favorite lightsaber color? And if it's purple, say your second favorite.
All right,
What,
fine.
we're just knocking purple out of there?
Oh, because I know I'm gonna pick purple as first. Sam already
How
sounds like he would choose purple.
Yeah,
It's
so cool. Well, are we just going just by color or what the color represents?
Don't do what the color represents.
Okay,
okay.
just color.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think I would go red.
mine would be purple then red, and then green then blue.
I'd go. Ooh, I don't know. This is hard. Cause I kind
Red
of like
just looks cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
red's pretty cool, but I think I'd have to choose either yellow or maybe green because I do like the yellow lightsabers when they
I
show
was
up
thinking
every
about
once
the
in a
yellow
while.
lightsaber,
I like the aesthetic of them. I
I'm
think it's
not
cool.
a fan
Yeah.
of them.
You don't
but
like
I don't
them?
think I like it better than red.
No.
See, I
I
like
really like the green too. Something about it.
I like the green, and yeah, that's fair. But I think the yellow is just a really cool aesthetic.
I think they're all very aesthetically pleasing to me,
Yeah.
but like I don't hate any of them. But I think I think I'd have to put green last though. I think I like
Yeah.
blue a little better than green.
Something about Luke Skywalker's green lightsaber just
That
really
is
stood
true.
out.
That
Yeah,
is
that's true. He does rock the green lightsaber. I'll give him that.
He does.
Okay, so does Solo then come next, or is it Rogue? Yeah, it's Solo.
Yeah.
So, Solo, I would personally give it a 3, because it wasn't anything insane, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah, I also had it at 3, just because just like with Attack of the Clones, I just enjoyed watching it. I thought like it didn't need to be made,
Yeah,
but it was
definitely
pretty cool to
needed
see.
be made.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to see.
I gave it a 1.5.
Okay,
You madman.
that's a little harsh. I'm going to tell you why I thought it was a 3, though, first, before we
Okay,
get
go
into your hot take.
Go ahead. I don't know if me putting it at a 1.5 is a hot take.
That is a hot take.
I
Okay.
disagree. A lot of people are not huge fans of this movie.
Well, so the thing with Solo is, we all know it didn't need to be made. We knew we didn't need a, like, Han Solo origin, obviously, because, like, that was part of, like, his, like, niceness, which you don't really know too much about his past, but you know he just did cool stuff. But, like, my entire thing of what brought it down, besides the fact that you didn't need it, like, the entire time, it just feels like you'd rather see, like, what the sequel could be instead of what's actually happening. Like, because the Kessler run, for as interesting as it can be, doesn't seem as interesting as what they ended up setting up. And, I mean, they did have good actors. Like, Donald Glover was nice. Woody Harrelson was good.
Yep.
It's just always weird seeing Han Solo as a different person. But, like, the guy did well.
Okay, so I agree with everything Joey said. I think
He's
he
about to
did a
bash the
pretty perfect
guy.
job.
He's
Yeah.
about to bash the point of the
I'm not
movie,
going
the
to
story.
bash everything, just most of it. I completely disagree on your take that he did a decent job. He was not the right actor for that.
His voice was a little high pitched.
I did not enjoy that. Well, I agree, but I really, above all, cannot get over the fact that this movie did not need to be made. But not only that, they set themselves up for failure. There have been kids running around since Star Wars came out dressed up as Han Solo, thinking Han Solo is the coolest one there. There was no possible way they could live up to that expectation in any possible way. Like, they set themselves up completely for failure. I just thought this movie was all over the place. I understand the plot, and it's not awful per se. I do actually enjoy the stuff they did with the crime syndicate, and the crime families, because I think that's really cool, especially because I've read a lot of the comics and stuff involving Darth Maul and everything leading up to it in Clone
I
Wars.
mean,
So I think that's really cool.
it's a forgettable movie. We can all
It
agree on
it
that.
very much is, yes. But
Yeah.
so I do like that they actually tied it into more extended stuff, such as Clone Wars, Darth Maul, and all of that stuff. I think that's cool. Paul Bettany, that's who plays Voss, right?
Um,
I
I
think so.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He's good in it. I think he's cool. He's an interesting villain to choose.
Donald Glover was a pretty good choice.
Yes, I think Donald Glover to play young Lando, that's a good casting.
Yeah, it is.
The rest of the
Lando, I guess.
cast, other than Paul Bettany, I don't think they're doing much. Woody Harrelson is okay. Um,
He was a smuggler. He was just like a smuggler guy. He didn't have much to be.
yeah, Amelia Clark, yeah, she's okay, I guess too. It's just wasn't a great movie for me, and you knew what it was getting into it. Like, oh, he said this, or he showed this in A New Hope or the original trilogy. Oh, that's why he has the dice. That's why he likes the dice. That's cool. Oh, that's where he learns to do the gun twirl. That's kind of cool. Oh, they actually do the Kessel Run. Oh, he wins the ship in a card match. Like, there was nothing I actually needed to see. I'm okay with them just telling me about it in the original trilogy. But
That was like the biggest problem, is because like what they set up though with like the crime syndicate stuff
yeah,
was like more interesting. So you were just like, I'd rather be watching the sequel to this movie
well, they go
than the
into that
movie.
in the books and the comics and Clone Wars. Clone Wars, you actually see Darth Maul setting up the crime syndicates during the Clone Wars time period, which
But
is
like that's what you'd
really
rather
cool.
be watching was the
Yeah,
biggest problem.
yeah. So I like the idea. No, I don't like the idea of this movie. I like the idea of them actually bringing stuff in that was set up in Clone Wars and other things other than the major movies. So I like that they actually took the time to bring that in. But other than that, I do not like this movie.
So
Okay.
I gotta ask.
Yeah.
Like you said, you don't like almost anything. At least the heist sequence or like the action sequence. Did you at least find that okay, or did you not like that either?
All of the action sequences, or just the one on the train?
Yeah,
You mean
just
the
yeah, I was
main one?
yeah, that's what I was gonna go to. But I guess any of them really.
I think the action's done pretty well here. It's definitely some of the coolest flying we've had recently.
Yeah.
But like sequel trilogy, I can't think of really a great starship battle, honestly. But I think this and Rogue One actually had some cool flying moments. I'll give them that. Kessel, it's funny because I didn't watch this movie in theaters, so I've been playing Battlefront 2, and that's like one of the main worlds for a lot of the games,
Oh yeah.
game modes. So like I was like, wow, they actually made this look pretty good in Battlefront, so that was kind of cool. So I did enjoy being on Kessel because they've talked about it so much, and I don't know, it just I really can't get over the fact that this movie was not needed. I can't get past that. I really
Yeah.
can't.
I got a little confused with the timeline of when it was happening at one point.
Yeah, yeah,
I think for me, there's like some small silver linings that make it a 3 for me.
yeah.
Like just so like I obviously it didn't have to be made. There are clear flaws, but like I kind of just enjoyed it, just
It's
sitting
like,
down and watching it. And I think
it's just kind of like a nice little movie to watch.
yeah,
And it's not something you, out of all the Stars movies, that you would feel like you would want
yeah,
to.
that wouldn't be my first choice, of course, but it
Well,
It's like,
certainly wouldn't be the last either.
I'm gonna
yeah,
say, if any Star Wars movie is on cable, I usually won't flip away. I'll just put it on in the background, maybe read a book while I'm watching it. But this movie, if it's on cable, I'm probably gonna change the channel.
I think we
Wow,
got that.
Yeah, yeah.
that's
I think Sug needs to stop talking about it.
Well, even like because they show them on what is it, TBS and TNT every once in a while. I'll watch Attack of the Clones. I'll put that on. I'll be like, you know what, it's
Oh,
on.
you already ranked it higher.
I did. But I'm like, you know what? No, I didn't. I gave Attack of the Clones a 1. I gave Solo a 1.5 because it's
Oh
definitely
yeah, that's right.
Attack of the Clones is too troublesome. But I can sit through that movie.
I feel like you should just change your ranking then.
Should I? Should I give Attack of the Clones a 1.5 and Solo a 1? Nah.
Or maybe just put Attack of the Clones at 1.5 and keep Solo where it is.
Attack of the Clones is so bad though.
But
But Solo, Solo, I personally dislike Solo. I can admit that it's definitely a better movie than Attack of the Clones, though.
Okay.
From
I'll
an
accept.
objective standpoint, the structure
Okay.
of the movie and everything they do in it, the action sequences and stuff, it's clearly
Fine.
a better movie. It's just not. I
Not
just
your
won't
cup of
watch
tea.
it. It is not for me. Attack of the Clones has nostalgia working for it for me too. It does.
Okay.
Okay, buddy.
What
Rogue
next?
One.
Rogue One?
Oh, this
Rogue
is definitely
Squadron.
one of my favorite movies of Star
I
Wars.
agree. I agree.
So I have it ranked at 4. It probably would have been
also-
a 4.5 maybe if we did 0.5s, but it's a 4.
Yeah, I also have it at a 4.
I
So-
also have it at a 4.
Is this our first agreement? Besides
The only thing,
Revenge?
Attack of the Clones, we all had 1. I decided it at 1 at the end.
Yeah.
You originally had it at 2 till Sug bullied you.
I didn't
No,
bully him.
No, I didn't have it at 2. I was like on the fence about it because I kind of wanted to put it at 2, but like,
Yeah.
But anyway,
Um,
let's not talk about that.
The only problem with Rogue One, I'm thinking, well, not character development per se, because it doesn't need to have character development for what
Yeah,
it is.
no.
It's just a
Well,
story.
they're actually
it's
giving
a war
up one
story.
guy a TV show.
Yeah, they are. But it's a war story, so I'm okay with that. There are a few things in the movie that are messy, but my personal thing, and I mean, it could just be me, but the fact that I walked out of this movie, and the only name, even to this day really, the only name I remember from this movie is K2SO, and that's the droid.
See,
Other than that,
don't
I could
remember
not
them.
I could not name a single other person in this movie.
I don't remember them, but sometimes I'm not the best with the names. But,
Yeah.
like, it really doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Because, like, obviously it ends with them all dying.
Yeah.
Like, they were never known for who they were. They're known for what they did.
Yeah.
So, like, this movie literally just shows how cool, like, the war actually was.
Yeah.
It shows, like, how scary Darth Vader can be.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
in the originals, you see that he just kills people for fun, chokes them, whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, you don't see him just unleash, like, pure chaos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, it really elevates when you watch New Hope now.
Yeah.
Because you realize how much he just, like, ripped them all apart.
Yeah.
Before you see, like, R2-D2 and stuff running away.
True.
It's like, he murders them bad.
And I have to say, this movie looks amazing. I love the
Yeah.
aesthetic of them on the beach and stuff. That whole
Yeah.
scene, I just think looks so cool.
I like the fact that you could actually come out of it and say, yeah, everyone died, and it's not, like, just a joke.
Yeah.
Because I actually didn't expect them to all die.
Neither did I.
I
But it
think
makes
that was
sense.
I think that was a smart choice. Yeah.
I had 2 like pros for this movie.
It
One,
had good comedy, too.
different from Solo. This movie I feel like was needed, or not was needed, but like had more of a sense to be needed.
It helped, like, the continuity of, like, the Death Star.
Yeah,
Just
because
having a hole in it.
in a New Hope they just say, "Oh, we have the plans for the Death Star now. Let's go blow it up." You know.
See,
I think this was a good way to portray how they got the plans.
And
See-
it actually shows, like, how hard it was to get those plans. Because, like, in
Yeah.
A New Hope, you're just like, oh, they kind of just have them. Okay, whatever.
I disagree. I still think this movie was not needed. It was probably like the idea of giving Han Solo an origin movie. I'm like, okay, it's not going to do well, but I see where you're coming from. This movie, they took a tiny detail. They made an entire movie out of one line that it was hard to get the plans. And I'm like, you know what? I definitely didn't need to see this, but I enjoyed seeing it. And they made me care about that line now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it was more that they actually made something important rather than taking something that could be interesting. They made something interesting with this movie.
I think
Yeah,
that's what's like happening with Star Wars. Is it's kind of like it's now struggling with like that DCEU problem, like where you're not really like enjoying like the connectedness as much, but you're really enjoying just solo stories.
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
Because like the whole trilogy format's really played out right now,
yeah. I agree with that. Yeah,
or at least just because they keep doing Skywalker stuff, it was really played out.
yeah.
Yeah,
When I felt
and
really complete with just the prequels and the originals for Skywalker.
And I think this movie also proves that you can take just random characters within this universe, and as long as you not even tie it to something, but as long as you make an interesting story to do with something, you can do it within Star Wars.
yeah,
You don't need
and
Jedi or anything. You can
that's what
make an
that was gonna be
interesting,
my next
yeah.
pro.
You can
My
make
next
an
pro
interesting
was
movie.
yeah, they weren't really overshadowed by the idea of Jedi and Sith, and the lightsabers and the Force and all that. Like,
Yeah,
I think that was part of the trilogies or the sequels problem.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that other than Darth Vader, there was not really a Force
Yeah.
in the movie. And
but like
well, other than the blind guy, I can't remember his name, but I
I
didn't have a
forgot.
problem with him.
Yeah.
Well, the perk of Darth Vader is he has like Sith powers and Jedi powers and all that. But like you can also just think of him as just like an evil like war guy,
Yeah,
like a war
a
general and
warlord, if you
everything.
will.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
I don't know.
this movie
It's
was
like
a 4 for me, and it was well earned.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it's definitely one of my favorites to watch, and it's definitely like it's also really easy to rewatch too
That's
because
fair.
it's
yeah,
just its own thing.
I
yeah.
also
You
have
don't
to
have to be
mention
invested.
that they brought in Saw Gerrera, who was from Clone Wars too, which I thought was interesting. He was also in the Rebels, and I think that that's an interesting character because he's not necessarily part of the rebellion. He has his own rebellion that's a more militant, less not less hopeful, but almost a more realist take on what this rebellion would actually be like. That people are going to die, and this movie really played with that idea and showed it that this was an actual war and
Yeah,
this is what would happen. And I always thought, even before Clone Wars came out, that a movie like this set during the Clone Wars would be interesting, showing like just
yeah,
a gritty war story involving the clones would be kind of cool. But and this movie really showed that they can do those stories within Star Wars instead of having it just tied to Jedi. That they can do stories about the actual war side of it, which I think is cool.
All right, what's next?
the originals. So A New Hope.
New Hope.
Okay.
That's
Me,
that's a big four for me.
that is also a 4 for me.
I gave this a 4.5.
This something
You,
about this movie. It just feels good to watch.
Yes.
It just makes you happy to watch.
Yeah.
yeah, and I
Like
think the ending. I like the ending. I think is my favorite and most memorable part.
it's got some like bummers nowadays, just because like technology and stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like with Jedi fights and everything. But like
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
can't hold it against it.
For the time
Yeah.
Yeah,
that it was made. This I think it's fair to say that this movie or the original trilogy is almost ahead of its time.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Like that was
like
the biggest
if
downside of the
yeah
prequels. It's like you go from this movie that's like insane and like is ahead of its time to a movie that's kind of like now like lagging behind its time almost.
yeah
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I don't know much to say about this movie.
I
I
didn't.
really like it. It's
I
good.
don't
yeah
remember it being as funny as it was.
That's
When I
true.
rewatched it, I'm like, wow, this is kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
It's just like I just like origin starts sometimes because they're just so simple and nice,
mhm.
and there's no like heavy weights on them yet.
Yeah.
And I
Um,
also like the fact that Darth Vader ends up killing Ben Solo or not Ben
yeah,
Solo, Ben Kenobi.
Yeah.
And like now that we have the prequels out and we see their relationship, we actually get to see how I guess heart dropping that is when that happens. You
Yeah.
know,
yeah.
because like they used to be like family, and now one just stabbed him right in the chest.
It also makes me feel really bad for Obi-Wan because like his life goes from like nice to just awful, having to like live in the desert,
Yeah.
only meditate every single day.
I'm sure he enjoyed it.
He
I
was
mean,
talking to Qui-Gon.
granted, that's what Jedi are supposed to do. That's why being
Yeah.
a Jedi actually sounds kind of awful. But
I mean, I don't know. If I got to hang out with a ghost version of Liam Neeson for a few years, that sounds pretty legit.
That is, I can totally see you doing that.
I mean, almost every scene in this movie is just now iconic, and
yeah,
it's awesome. It looks great. It still holds up.
Mhm.
That's the
you
best
can
part.
definitely. It's sometimes a little funnier though to see how bad the effects are though now.
The cutting.
Yeah.
My favorite effect in this movie, honestly, is the cut when they're still on Tatooine and Luke turns on the lightsaber for the first
Oh
time,
yeah,
and it's just a
it just
quick cut to him,
chops.
and I'm like, that's awful, but I love it so much.
I think that's kind of like the hidden beauty in like these older movies is you can appreciate how far the CGI has come,
Yeah,
and
Mhm.
you just enjoy not like how bad it is. Like it's not like, I mean, it's bad, but I feel
But
like
it's
bad
also
is
like it's like revolutionary at its time, like with those like
yeah.
fight scenes in the space.
yeah.
So yeah, ahead of its time is definitely
It was just nice that they used
Word I
practical
use.
effects.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I can always appreciate practical effects.
Because like that's where the prequels went wrong too. Is they George Lucas got really excited about CGI and overdid it.
People make that same argument with The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and the people like The Lord of the Rings so much better because of
It's just because they put so much
the
time
practical
involved.
effects.
Yeah. I do have to say, and this is just a broad continuity thing, all of the tech and stuff they have in the prequels,
So advanced.
is it just gone? Did the Empire be like, no more science for you? We're gonna do the science, and it all goes to the war effort? Like that's was always my head canon, that like the Empire's like, we can't focus on these scientific advancements for people. We have to focus on this war and maintaining an empire
I
and
think
stuff.
it's something like that actually.
That's what I always thought. But then again, the sequel trilogy, they're still using X-wings. The TIE fighters are a little more advanced in the sequel trilogy that the New Order or First Order uses, but like there's still not any more advancement. So I'm like, maybe they just got too good in the prequels and were like, you know what? Let's take it back a little. And now they're just going with simpler technology from then on.
I like to
I'm
think
like, okay.
like especially if you use the Mandalorian, it's like a lot of people are just impoverished because of like
The
the
Empire,
Empire's reign.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like they basically just stripped you of everything,
Yeah.
and you were controlled by them. Like
Did you
basically
even see
everywhere
that in
you
The
went,
Mandalorian?
there were stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Like even when the Empire dies, it doesn't completely die.
Yeah.
Hence the Mandalorian, and then how the New Order, whatever it is, forms.
First Order, yeah.
First Order.
Okay. I think we can move on to Empire Strikes Back.
I think we
Yeah,
all have
easy
this the
5.
same.
Easy
Yeah,
5.
5.
I don't think we really have to explain it that much.
I'm gonna say, I think this is a perfect movie. That's it. I honestly do.
Slug and I on these lists, for some reason, really rate sequels high sometimes.
We do. We do. But, I mean, every scene in this movie, I'm like, this is so good. That's every single scene. I can't think of a scene I dislike.
I'm trying to refute you, but I don't think I can this time.
I think the only thing that is annoying if you watch the prequels is watching Luke battle Darth Vader. Because it's like one of the coolest fights. Like, I have nothing wrong with it. But sometimes watching Luke even get hits on Darth Vader seems a little weird.
See, even then I sort of disagree. Like, because, yeah, they're not like the prequel fights where they're doing flips, but also, Luke's not done with his training. He's just kind of.
Well, no, it's not based on the skill.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that, like, Darth Vader's not, like, blocking it. Especially when you watch Rogue One and you know he's still that powerful.
Well, I think he's almost playing with the idea, too. Because at this point, he knows Luke is his son. And he's just more or less seeing what he possibly can do.
But that's usually, that's what I was thinking back to myself during, like, all the movie. Because I rewatched them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's just Darth Vader's like, he knows he can beat Obi-Wan. He knows he can beat Luke Skywalker. But he's not going to.
Yeah.
Because he's so cocky.
Yeah.
Because Anakin was known for being cocky, and I mean
Yeah.
he's technically still Anakin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you guys say Darth Vader was in his prime in Revenge of the Sith or like the Empire? Empire
I
Strikes Back.
I
Like
go back and forth with
power
this
wise,
because
or
Yeah,
just cool.
like in his prime, like ability to wield lightsabers in the Force.
He was more agile, obviously, when he was the Jedi.
but he relearned everything too once he became Darth
Yeah.
Vader, and they deal with that in the comics too. That
I
his body
think
doesn't work the same way, so he has to figure out how he can fight and use this power.
Yeah.
I think Rogue One.
Rogue One.
He's in
So
his.
like
He
right
looks like
before A
he's in
New
his
Hope.
prime. Just because they haven't shown you like any of like the comic stuff yet
Yeah.
in the movies, I'd have to go with Rogue One.
I think I'd agree with that because that's probably the height of his powers using the dark side. So because I always feel like in Revenge of the Sith, most of the skill he's mostly just using lightsaber skills in Revenge of the Sith when he's fighting Obi-Wan. He's still strong with the Force, but he hasn't learned how to use and control the dark side yet. So in Rogue One, I think that's where he truly has a handle on both how to use his new body as Darth Vader, but also how to use his power wielding the dark side.
I know what throws me off though about the prequel. I mean the originals. They pronounce like Han Solo as Han Solo, and they pronounce the Millennium Falcon as Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
But like that and everything else, they pronounce it as Han and Falcon.
I think it's just one of those things that enough people started saying it that it just sort of switched over time, which I'm like, it's all right.
Yeah, I don't really have a big problem with that.
Yeah, it is kind of strange, but that's
threw me
just
off for a
it.
second.
Yeah.
I also forgot, like, I find it weird people actually like Lando.
I like Lando.
Because, like, mostly when you see him, he's just kind of like, as Han says, not trustworthy.
Yeah, but that's his character. I like that. I think
that doesn't mean you don't have to like him.
I think he's funny. He obviously, in this movie, he's obviously not a great person, but I think that makes sense. Like, he's the leader of this city, and if the Empire shows up, he's not going to just be like, sorry, I'm trying to help my friends. He would actually do that. And he's also a smuggler, so it's not like his morals are that high up that he'd just be like, ooh, you're kind of evil. He's trying to protect himself, but he's also still thinking of other people in that sense that it's the city. He can't do anything to fight the Empire.
Yeah, it's that moral ambiguity.
Just picture him as better.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I do have to say, I forgot how funny though Yoda is.
Yes.
Yeah, Yoda's good.
Do you like this version of Yoda, or do you like him during the prequels? Or both?
I like this version better. Like, I like both equally. But, like, it's cool to see what he was.
Yeah.
But he also just encompasses more of that spiritual part of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can almost go on to say it's like almost two different sides of Yoda in the prequel and the original.
Yeah. Yeah. I go back and forth, but I really do like this Yoda, seeing him just as the teacher, not as the leader of this giant institution of Jedi, but just teaching one student. And all of those scenes on Dagobah, I just think are so cool, and all of the training Luke does in this movie.
Okay.
I also like that the movie starts with a fight scene.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always a plus.
And it's nice that it doesn't end on a high note.
Yeah, I do like that.
Because it plays with you.
And I mean, it has to be said, this movie pretty much invented the plot twist.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to Return of the Jedi. Now, this one actually is a divisive for
everyone. Yeah, it is more divisive.
Amongst people. A lot of people felt let down. Some people thought it was, like, insane.
Yeah.
I personally put it in that 4 category.
Yeah.
Just a little lower.
I gave it a 4.5 still. So, even with A New Hope, but below Empire.
Like, I also gave this one a 4.
Okay.
Like, out of my, like, list of 4, it's probably the least favorite to second least favorite.
Yeah.
I used to think it was, like, one of the best, just because, like, you finally get to see Luke as a Jedi.
Yeah,
You
that's
get
true.
the whole Jabba the Hutt scene.
I love that was my thing.
You,
Jabba the Hutt is my
yeah,
favorite part of this movie.
you like Jabba's palace? I respect that.
It's so funny.
It like subverts your expectations though of the final battle.
Yeah,
Because like I kind of forget watching it back, like because Luke trains with Yoda, he really gets like drilled with that spiritual part of the Jedi Order.
yeah,
So like he really knows you don't fight as a Jedi,
yeah,
which like you kind of forget about when you watch the prequels because like they're in a war
yeah, yeah,
and all they do is kill people. So like the first what you would have expected with that big final fight,
yeah,
and that's cool to see Darth Vader come back.
yeah, yeah.
It's
Um,
just I feel like it just misses a little bit of that like specialness of New Hope and Empire,
yeah.
and it had big expectations to live up to because of Empire.
Yeah.
But I
I
don't think it's bad at all. I really enjoy it.
yeah, I still really enjoy this movie. I do enjoy Jabba's palace scene. I think it's definitely cornier, but I still like it. I think it's cool. It's funny. Um, everything on Endor onwards, I think is awesome. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I
And
really don't see what people's problem is with it.
I get the idea that the Ewoks are kind of, they're a little funny, but I mean,
Have you
and the
seen half
idea
the things
that
though in the world?
the Ewoks were able to help, were an integral part almost of helping to destroy this giant empire is it's a little out there. But you know what? It's also Star Wars, so you know what? We
Yeah,
can hold our beliefs a little. I do
Yeah.
think someone brought this point up to me that it would be interesting if instead of Ewoks they went to like Kashyyyk and like they met up with the Wookiees, like so a bunch of Chewbacca's, and that's
but
where like they made their stand and they're the ones that helped instead of like Ewoks. That
yeah, but
definitely would have been a more interesting take, and it would have been
that's
kind of
before
cool.
like Kashyyyk was really a thing though.
No, it wasn't at the time, but the idea that instead of Ewoks, that it was a bunch of Wookiees like Chewbacca,
Yeah,
so they were better at fighting than a bunch of teddy bears.
but at
But you
least
Couldn't
know
you
what?
just say, hang on, couldn't you just say that Ewoks are smaller Wookiees?
You could, but they're weak and tiny and frail.
but like the thing is though, like at least in continuity they've made it so like the Wookiees could have never been there because they all become enslaved or murdered,
Yeah, yeah.
and
So
then they
it
have
makes
the
sense.
integral part of like Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, but I'm just saying like if
Wait,
George Lucas instead of Ewoks went,
it'd have been more interesting probably.
yeah, and slightly more believable. But even then, I don't mind the Ewoks. I
I
like
don't feel bad.
Ewoks. They're
I
cool.
don't feel bad about them. It's Star Wars. There are so many dumb things.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can enjoy those dumb things, I think.
Yeah, but
Yes.
I don't really
Yes.
have a problem with the Ewoks. That's the thing.
I understand why some people do, but I like them personally. I think they're cool.
I think another thing was people didn't like that they just made a bigger Death Star again,
Yeah.
and that it didn't take them that long to make.
Well, they didn't finish it.
But they were very far along. I feel like.
Well, they focused completely on the laser and like the main systems. So like one, they already had the plan, so they knew what they were doing this time,
Okay.
and they knew how to build it. But the whole point is that they weren't completely done with it. But even then, it was done enough that they could do some serious damage.
Overall, though, I don't have any complaints.
Nah,
I think it just misses a little bit of that spark,
yeah, yeah,
barely,
yeah.
but
I can
enough to
agree with
put it
that.
in 4.
Yeah.
Okay. This is where the hot takes might be happening for some
Are they
people.
even hot takes? Let's be honest.
Some people really like the sequels.
I haven't met any of those people.
Not people I know. I'm just saying.
Exactly.
Well, because
So,
they were made for a new generation.
yeah,
Yeah.
when The Force Awakens came out, if I remember correctly, I think there was a lot of hype around it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I was
Of
hyped for this
course.
movie. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was pumped.
and if, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the fandom was split between some people enjoying it and some people were let down.
Yeah.
Force
Because this
Awakens.
is what happened.
Yeah.
It was like it met what you wanted, but then you start really thinking, and you're like, wow, this is like watching A New Hope, but in like 20 whatever. And
Yeah.
then it's like, wait a minute, I really don't like where they went with the storyline, where everything just went bad again.
I
But then you had so much hope for the sequels, and then get on to that.
George Lucas always says that it's like poetry, that these random things start to repeat. And you know what? I'm okay how similar it was to A New Hope. I'm okay with them taking the easy kind of clean cut, this is Star Wars path. Clearly they did not follow that going forward. But
No,
for Force Awakens introducing it as the first movie, I understand why they wouldn't want to
oh yeah,
take a bunch of risks. I
like
understand they wanted
it,
to do something they knew the majority of people would like and would get the job done to introduce it to a new generation.
it gets in the number 3 category.
Yeah.
It's just like when you really look back on it, it doesn't have that specialty to get into 4. And for me, it's like just kind of there in
Yeah.
the grand scheme of things.
I personally gave it a 3.5. It's just out of those fours for me. Um, I think it's really good, and every once in a while, I'll still get a feeling where, like, you know what? I kind of want to watch Force Awakens, which I don't always get for pretty much the rest of these movies.
I
But
just got, I really just got disappointed because, like, if you know, like, the legend stuff and
that
all
is
that,
true. Yeah,
you know how cool it could have been.
yeah,
I didn't like the fact that, like, all their lives go back to being bad after literally being good for, like, a year
yeah,
and all that.
yeah,
I don't like that Luke Skywalker has no, like, happiness.
yeah. And what bothered me when I first saw it with this movie is one, that we never saw the original three, Luke, Leia, and Han, back together. That was a wasted opportunity that they were never all together in the same room at least
Yeah.
once. Um, I didn't like. I liked most of the aesthetic choices. Like I think when I forgot what planet they're going to, but the opening scene with um Finn and the rest of his stormtroopers going down, and like the shots they have of them on the ship where it looks like that kind of grittier feeling and it just looks
Mhm.
really cool. I like that, and I like the aesthetics they chose to do, but I just think it didn't. Yeah, it just didn't quite hit the mark that it needed to, but it was still good. It was a good setup, I think, and I think if the rest of the trilogy maybe played out a little differently, then this movie might be a little higher for me.
Maybe.
But because of the way they set all of this up, and then afterwards it might not have
Yeah.
done what it needed to after that, this movie kind of gets dropped down a little bit.
Yeah. The next 2 movies really hurt your, like for this movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
For me, originally I had this at a 2-star, but I think after rethinking it, I'm gonna put it at 3-star for a few reasons. One, Kylo Ren in this movie is probably my favorite part, and it's probably the
Yeah.
best Kylo Ren we get throughout the sequels.
yeah.
Because I'm just remembering the Last Jedi scene where he has his shirt off and he's talking to Rey.
That was a good meeting.
Oh my gosh! But I also I don't know. How do you guys feel about Kylo Ren being the son of Han? Did you guys like that?
I like that idea conceptually.
Yeah. I would have been. I just kind of was hoping for a little less, like, let's follow these characters again.
Yeah,
Because, like, you knew they were never gonna let you follow them, and then all that.
yeah. Um, I thought it was okay. I remember being shocked when he first took off his mask that that's what he looked like.
Yeah.
Because like, I didn't know who Adam Driver was at that time, but I think it was an okay choice, and it was an interesting dynamic. It was an interesting choice to have that character be kind of the villain for the series. I think it was a good reveal. I liked it.
Or it's just kind of annoying when you figure out, like, how he became it.
Yeah, and that's moving on to the Last Jedi. But
Yeah.
I think
'Cause
overall, there was a lot of potential. This movie had
Yeah.
a lot of potential, and if the rest of the sequel trilogy worked out differently, this would definitely be higher for me. But I
Yeah,
think
it's up a
a
lot of stuff.
3.5 makes sense.
definitely set up a lot of things.
Okay, so
Okay.
The Last Jedi, the least divisive Star Wars movie ever made.
This was a big letdown.
Yeah, you didn't like this one?
It's not, okay. Well, the problem is, like, you watch it as a movie, it's not that bad. You watch it as a Star Wars movie, and like take into continuity like reasons, and it just makes you hate it because it ruins so much for you.
I story wise, yeah, it's not great. Movie wise, it's okay. It gets the
Like
job done.
they have some cool scenes, they do some cool things at times, but it ruins Luke Skywalker and his whole arc throughout the entire franchise.
That yeah.
Now, was it Force Awakens that teased Luke Skywalker at the end?
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
That was
Force
another
Awakens
reason why I liked Force Awakens. I
Yeah.
thought that was cool.
Force Awakens ends with them just
Him on
staring
the
at each
island.
other, staring at each other, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't like Luke being so cynical because it just wasn't his character.
It
I
is
don't like
weird because even at this time there were some comics and stuff out bridging that gap between Return and Force Awakens, but even then they did not show anything of this magnitude of a change in character. So it was definitely shocking, and it was like one of those things where I'm like, I don't know if I can honestly see this guy who was literally being electrocuted and refusing to join the dark side and refusing to give up on his father, who has killed millions of people at this point throughout the galaxy, Darth Vader, and then a few,
go to
you know,
kill like
about
10-year-old.
yeah, trying to kill his nephew, who hasn't even done anything yet, but he had a dream about it. And I'm like, I just don't see how the same character can necessarily do that.
Like I get like the whole thing about Luke Skywalker is because he was never trained properly originally.
Yeah,
Was that he was always too emotional.
yeah,
But like he's been training and he's like probably one of the wisest Jedi ever
yeah,
now.
yeah,
And he was always a hope guy.
yeah, yeah. That was kind of his thing. Um, I don't know. This was so. It was
Wait.
strange.
What were you guys' stars for this? I don't think we said this. Are we all in agreement with one?
I had one just because I didn't have. It wasn't. It was just so much of a letdown in the theaters. Like it, I wouldn't say it's the worst movie in this trilogy, but personally, I'd give it a 1.
I gave it a 1.5.
It had a better. It had like better stories, is why. Like it had a more concrete story. It just had a lot of stupid parts.
See, I disagree. I put this at a 1.5 for the dialogue and being a generally better and cleaner movie than, say, Attack of the Clones. But personally, I like the story of Attack of the Clones better. But I can admit that Last Jedi is a better movie, per se.
Well, when we get to Rise of Skywalker, I'm saying
Yeah, yeah.
it had a better. It was more concrete how it was executed. It had its vision. It wasn't a good vision, but it had its vision.
Yeah.
And
When
it
I
stuck
think
to
of
it.
this movie, there's two scenes that come directly to mind to me. When Leia's in space, she should clearly be dead.
Yeah.
It just isn't. Okay, like that right off the bat was what?
That also was made weirder by the fact that like you knew she just like Carrie Fisher just died too.
Yeah.
It's gonna be weird to see her in like the next movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next thing was the scene with Rey. I don't remember exactly what happened, but when she was seeing like multiple versions of herself, did that one mirror thing. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, in the
Yeah,
cave.
that scene was just really odd and out of place.
See, I kind of like that. I thought that mirrored Luke's scene in Empire Strikes Back enough that I kind of liked what they were doing with it.
The thing that was weird for me is like I know it's possible because it happens with Luke and Darth Vader. It's like talking to each other, like through your mind.
Yeah.
But how they did it in Last Jedi was just weird because all of a sudden they could like touch each other, they could see each other. They were in the
Keep
same
that
like
going
room.
through the Rise of Skywalker too.
Yeah.
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 Which is really weird because they like almost teleport through it
Yeah.
in Rise of Skywalker.
I don't know. What do you both think of the Canto Bite scenes of this movie. So
It's
Finn and
just so
Rose.
pointless. And
Yeah.
Rose was just not like an interesting character
I can
to have that
honestly
much
say
attention.
I would rather be in a room with Jar Jar than with Rose.
Wow. Wow.
It's just because like they gave Rose that one like track idea, and that was it.
Yeah.
And they put too much emphasis on her for that.
I
Yeah.
think at least Jar Jar wasn't just a mess up all the time. He knew when to stay out. Rose literally stopped Finn from saving everybody by almost killing him.
And then almost killing herself. But
It
she
makes no
didn't die.
sense.
Yeah, they
And
rang
it,
at the end. They rang that bell a few too many times, where they kept pretending this character's gonna die.
oh,
And I like Finn, but I kind of wish they would have let him do it,
yeah,
especially going forward with Rise of Skywalker.
I think that would have made the
yeah.
movie so much better.
Yeah.
Every
Honestly,
character, basically, besides Rey and Rise of Skywalker, you're like, why didn't they just kill them off
Yeah. Yeah.
before this? Because like they literally serve no one serves a purpose in Rise of Skywalker besides Rey and Kylo.
Yeah. That's true. Um, Finn, I thought had such a strong introduction in Force Awakens. I thought
Yeah,
he did. He was so
because I
cool in Force
expected
Awakens.
not to like him because like they're being a little weird with how they're gonna make him.
Yeah. He
Because they're like
and
he's a clone, then they're like he's a Jedi, and then they're like, well, he could also just be bad. He could also just be good.
yeah, the idea that he's a stormtrooper and he doesn't want necessarily anything to do with the rebellion, but then with the resistance. But then he finds Rey and stuff, and that kind of leads him to it. And even then, he still doesn't really care about the resistance that much through this whole movie. He just cares about Rey and like trying to help these people just to help Rey. But that arc did not come through very well because he
Yeah,
still, even in the end, doesn't necessarily care about these people. It feels like.
and like the only really interesting one in the Resistance was Poe, and then they started making him like a bumbling idiot in this.
yeah.
That is true.
Like
What
I
I was
get
gonna
I
get
their
to.
entire plans was he was supposed to be dead in like the first 5 minutes of Force, but like kept him. He was likable. Then he made him
Yeah.
stupid
yeah
for no reason.
What
yeah
I forgot to mention in The Force Awakens is I like the relationship Poe had with Finn. Like
Yeah,
I like them together.
yeah
I thought they were cool, and the fact that like Finn's backstory is he's a stormtrooper, and like the fact that they got along, and like how he kept the jacket, I think was all a nice
yeah.
touch.
Like if you take kind of going back to the Force Awakens, but this trilogy as a whole, if you take some of these ideas like Han Solo and Leia's son is evil and went to the dark side. Okay, that's kind of interesting. You have a stormtrooper that defected from the First Order. That's kind of interesting. I mean, a lot of these ideas and these characters sound good, but the way they chose to use them or didn't use them, where it turned out for Finn, just didn't make sense and kind of ruined it. I felt like
and
because there were ideas there that made sense.
another problem is they set up the universe in like a way where you didn't need the Jedi aspect at all. Like you could have had the Sith
Yeah,
part, but you didn't need any Jedi in it.
yeah,
And then like they made Rey, then they made her so powerful, but
yeah,
never explained how she was powerful.
yeah,
And then they did the whole stuff with parents. They didn't capitalize on that.
yeah,
They made Rey like just unlikable. Like they didn't give her anything to really like about.
yeah.
They never gave you a payoff for Snoke.
Yeah, what did you both think about the Snoke twist in this movie?
It was so dumb.
It was unnecessary.
Well, because like the problem was like they blame half the problem with the movie doing bad too on Star Wars theories, and
Yeah,
that was like the biggest theory. And then they gave you no payoff for any of it.
I personally, I didn't mind them killing Snoke. I was like, you know what? That was a decent twist if they capitalized on it right. Like the idea that, I mean, going into the next movie a little, that Kylo Ren was going to be the big bad after this. Like
Yeah,
Snoke's dead and Kylo Ren's just this mad evil dictator leader trying to take over this mantle and still chasing after this idea of Darth Vader and stuff. I was like, okay, sweet. Kylo Ren, easily my favorite character in this new trilogy. Giving
mine
more of
was
him,
Poe, but now it's Kylo.
giving more of him and making him kind of the big bad for the rest of it, I was on board. But then, yeah, you're right. They didn't capitalize it. So, like, They set it up in Force Awakens. They didn't capitalize it in The Last Jedi, but then they went further and didn't capitalize on it
Mm-hmm.
afterwards too. So that's kind of where it lost. But honestly, the twist of that, and even Rey's parents potentially being nobodies, if they stuck with that and didn't, if they stuck with that and actually paid off those ideas, I kind of would have been okay with that.
I just didn't like that they hyped all that up
Yeah, yeah,
to do it. And
that's
then
true.
like another problem I had was like Kylo after like the first movie didn't feel like a villain anymore, but Rey felt like she should have just been evil, and they should have done the swap idea, which was a lot of theories and like what positions they take up, because it would have been something you haven't seen in Star Wars yet
Yeah, I would
for
have
a
been cool
final
with that, I
story.
think.
And what was the last part I was gonna say? It had to do with, I'm not sure. I'll come back to it.
Alright.
Okay. Um, is there anything
Yes,
else we need to touch on in this movie?
Um,
it was basically
oh,
just failed expectation in the end.
yeah. Yeah. Alright. Let's
Um,
go on to the last one.
The Rise of Skywalker.
Now,
Okay,
before we start, let's just clarify something really quick. I haven't seen this movie, so everybody knows.
it's
I
gonna
was
be on
going
Disney Plus
to,
soon.
yeah, I was
Yeah,
going to, but I just wasn't too enthusiastic and excited about it. And
yeah,
then this whole quarantine started, and I wasn't able to.
yeah.
So I haven't seen it. So I'll let the other guys talk about it.
Okay.
Okay, so I actually have this ranked at 2, but in like reality of movie wise, it definitely deserves a 1. But I only put it as a 2 because I had a fun experience making fun of it the entire time.
You were so bad in that theater. That
It
was
was
tough.
hilarious.
Um, I gave this a 2. I do think this is better. I don't know about that. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. It's definitely better than Attack of the Clones. Honestly, I think it's about even with The Last Jedi, but I think I like this one a tiny bit better. I don't even know if that's true, but this movie has a little more going for it, I think, for me. But even then, it's
I don't know.
it's messy. I.
It's like all over the place. You don't care about any characters anymore. The resistance is nothing. The
Yeah,
war
that's
is
a little.
nothing. They
Yeah,
bring back Palpatine for no reason.
that was
Rey's
this.
now a Palpatine out of nowhere.
Watching it, the opening crawl. This movie, I will say one thing. This movie is fast. It
Oh
starts and it
yeah.
just keeps going. Um, how does it? It opens with the light speed skip. Well, no, it opens with Kylo Ren, but then it goes to the light speed skipping and stuff, and that's the best summary of this movie. They're just moving the whole time, going from plot point to plot point, and how
It
they
has
get
like
to those
cool
points,
things.
it's not really great.
But the
But
problem is it has these cool things. Like it has Palpatine just go berserk out of nowhere. But now Rey can just stop them out of nowhere again.
yeah, I
Like
I
the
can't
Rey
support
overpower.
Palpatine being back. I really can't. It was
Rey
not.
is just such a problematic character, too.
I don't even think it's Ray per se. It's just they didn't choose to do anything. Like if they said, okay, her parents are no one. Okay, that works. Don't go back on everything. Even
Mhm.
Snoke being dead, they're like, okay, yeah, Snoke's dead. But actually, he worked
Oh,
for Palpatine. And I'm like, what? And even the side character, like Hux, who they
mhm.
ended up killing off, I'm like, they killed him off and then literally just replaced him with a slightly better version of Hux.
Yeah.
And
So
that
like the
one, that the biggest problem with me with that one character, they give them this throwaway line to Palpatine that I'll serve you like I have done before in the past, and I'm like, great. So I can read a comic book or novel or get a random TV show about this random dude serving
mhm.
Palpatine beforehand, and I'm like,
Yep.
I don't need that. I
I,
really
I
don't.
was I don't know if you guys remember this, but when the Force Awakens came out, I was a big fan of Hux.
Yeah.
You love Tuxen.
Well,
Yeah,
the
and then
perk of
they made him turn. I was just like, can't you just keep one guy evil? You
a
know,
big
it doesn't have
perk
to
of
be the
Force
same person all over and over again.
Yeah.
the Force Awakens did a really good job making the new villains like villains. and that they just reversed all of it. They took all
They
the attention
literally
away
reversed
from it.
all of it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the rebellion became like basically useless. All mattered was what Rey would do with the Sith.
Yeah.
Because like at least in Return of the Jedi, both stories are very important.
Yeah.
This one, the entire rebellion gets defeated just because Palpatine shoots lightning during Rey's fight.
But
Like
they all
nothing they
somehow
do
live.
was
I don't know about that.
nothing they did mattered in the end besides what Rey did. And
Yeah.
then the fact that Kylo like take basically suicides himself so Rey can continue living,
Yeah.
pretty dumb.
I go back and forth with that because personally, if one of them had to live, I do like Kylo Ren. He's kind of cool.
I think everybody would pick Kylo Ren.
He's pretty
But
cool.
it's like all Rey's story was she was a Palpatine, and she
Yeah.
had to either become a Palpatine or not become a Palpatine.
Yeah.
And then it's dumb that they're like, oh, you can be a Skywalker though.
That.
Like
Yeah.
that was pointless.
That was.
Like it
That
doesn't
wasn't
mean
great.
anything to be a Skywalker. It's just a name technically.
True. True.
And then she just gets a new lightsaber out of nowhere. She's like, I restored the balance, even though she just killed probably like 15,000 Sith.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they just bring back like a Sith council out of nowhere, which could have been cool. Palpatine's overpowered again somehow, and all of a sudden Rey just kills them all just like that.
Well,
And she's like, it's balanced now that we have one Jedi.
I'm very confused about a lot of stuff. Like, okay, rule of two. So, before, I was always like, oh, there's master and apprentice, that's just what they do. But this movie, they bring up her, like, taking Palpatine's power and not memories, but, like, all of the power of every, he says the line, I am every Sith that's come before me, and I'm like, is that how the rule of two was working this whole time, that they just keep passing it down for one another? And I'm like, that's kind of strange. That's a weird retcon, but I guess it kind of makes more sense. Or unless it's like, that's kind of more a figurative term, that like each Sith passes down everything they know to their apprentice, which clearly has Palpatine kind of broke that cycle, considering he's killed or tried to kill every one of his apprentices since the series started.
Yeah, that's also true.
So I don't know how that all works with canon.
It's also hard to believe he would do the same exact plan he had with Luke Skywalker when he saw how that works.
I like, in Return of the Jedi, him having Luke look out the window, where it's like, I guess the battle shields will be operational, like that whole thing. I'm like, they did that twice in the sequel trilogy. They did it with Snoke when she was looking out in Last Jedi, and then they did it again when he opened the ceiling in Rise of Skywalker. And I'm like, you can't use that twice in one trilogy. I don't think that's fair.
Yeah.
There's just... What?
I was just gonna ask if you guys, because I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen a clip of it when Kylo Ren is knocked down and like she has like all the Jedi on her side or whatever. So like you get the cameos from like Anakin, like before he turns into Darth Vader, Obi-Wan, like Mace Windu, all those other guys. Did you enjoy that? Like
I didn't, because you're just sitting there like, what the heck is happening?
Yeah,
what am I watching?
I remember watching
what have they done?
And I was so confused. Like, cause they should have at least put like clips or something of the people who were talking.
And
you know,
well, because also if you watch the movie, you're already just like shaking your head at what you're just seeing.
Yeah.
And how nothing's making sense.
I didn't completely mind it. I thought it was kind of
execution flaw.
I thought it was an interesting idea. I like that they included people from Clone Wars and from Rebels, like from the TV shows and extended canon. Yeah, it was strange. Also, Anakin has the line, bring balance to the Force as I did. And I'm like, Palpatine's still alive. So I don't really know if you brought balance to the Force. Then I walked out of that movie and I'm like, okay, I'm with you that Anakin's the chosen one up until Return of the Jedi. He ended up killing Palpatine. He technically brought balance to the Force. There were two Jedi, two Sith. That makes sense. But then after that, Palpatine still lives. I mean, I guess there's still Luke, and then there's also Palpatine, who's apparently running around still alive. So yeah, he still brought balance. But like,
Yeah.
he didn't destroy the Sith. So is he technically the chosen one anymore?
Yeah, but that's stupid. Like everyone knows, Luke Skywalker become Anakin was always the chosen one in
Yeah,
the end,
yeah.
and then now Rey is supposed to be considered the chosen one out of nowhere.
I guess so. I guess that how that works now.
I just couldn't get behind the fact she kills everyone. Somehow a good guy. She's the only person left who has any Jedi or like Sith powers. Apparently, there's balance, according to her. She buries a lightsaber because she's like, oh, they'll find it if they want it. She has a new lightsaber, even though she has no idea how to be a Jedi.
Okay.
And then she just
Also,
walks
wasted
off.
opportunity. This whole sequel trilogy, they've been showing her using a staff. I'm like, and
Oh
then
yeah,
in
the
the
staff.
very end, they didn't give her a dual sided lightsaber. Like, I thought
Yeah,
that
she
was.
just had a boring lightsaber that was
I thought,
yellow for no reason.
well, I like that it was yellow and stuff, but I was like, that whole time you're showing her using a staff. Even sometimes instead of the lightsaber, even when she has the lightsaber, she sometimes uses the staff. But then they don't give her a dual sided lightsaber. I'm like, why? There was
Oh
Do we
so
yeah,
much
know?
setup.
Do we know of anybody, like any Jedi that uses a dual
Um,
dual-sided lightsaber?
Pong Krell, who ended up being not a Sith, but who ended up being less. He ended up being somewhat more evil. Had a dual sided lightsaber within the Jedi Order during Clone Wars. There's a lot of people in Clone Wars and extended canon that did. There's a few.
oh,
Yeah.
another dumb part of the movie is they keep building up Poe kind of like confessing love or something to Rey, and
I don't.
that's literally all he says the entire movie. And then they never tell you what he says, and he never says it.
That was. Was it confirmed that he was going to say he was force sensitive or no?
I have no idea. I
I
don't
thought
care
reading a
about this
while
movie.
ago, like when the movie came out, that that's what he was gonna say.
I mean,
But
but
I'm
that
not 100%
also
sure.
doesn't
She would have
really.
known though.
Yeah, one, shouldn't she have sensed it, or Leia should have sensed it, but also, shouldn't Finn. Okay, he's saying this as they're falling into quicksand and they think they're dying. I don't think my last words to someone would be like, Ray, I never got to tell you I'm force sensitive. That doesn't
Yeah,
really. That doesn't check out.
maybe if it was like "I love you," I guess it could check out because it's a cliche, but
Yeah, I mean, it's dumb, but at least it makes more sense.
especially because they spent a whole movie developing a love story between him and someone else.
Well, also, all of the. I did like the idea of the defected stormtroopers joining them. I thought that was kind of an interesting idea.
I forgot that even happened. In
It
all honesty,
was not a main thread, but it was an interesting idea that they
all,
did.
if
But
I had
was
to rate
I,
this entire like trilogy, I'd just say it's an overall just disappointment and disservice to the continuity.
I think there was potential there. I
Yeah,
think there was a
Star
lot of
Wars.
potential. I think it was definitely a letdown. I'll give it that. It wasn't great. Yeah,
I feel like you're so much nicer to this movie than Solo.
I am. I'll give you that. Um,
Um,
cause like I knew they were gonna make a trilogy. I knew there wasn't any way they were gonna just let this franchise die out. They were gonna do
I'd
another
rather,
trilogy.
I'd rather
But
Vaughn than
Solo was a waste, and no one can convince me otherwise that there was a point in making a Solo movie.
I
yeah,
mean, you could
no,
also
you're
argue
right.
that there was no point in making another Skywalker story.
I mean, yeah, but that was gonna happen regardless. I was like, okay, we're definitely getting this.
If anything, they should have gone a whole different route of who they like focused on besides Skywalkers. Like you could have still had Luke and stuff in there, but
Well,
to have
that's
it all
what this
emphasized on them.
was almost supposed to be setting up. Where like
But
from now on,
they didn't
well,
though.
and that's what bothers me about Rise of Skywalker. Like to end one, it's not a great end to the sequel trilogy because
It
it,
also doesn't really wrap up the war because it's not really over. Palpatine's just gone. That's about it.
yeah, but like it doesn't. Okay, it doesn't wrap up the sequel trilogy, but it also does not wrap up the Skywalker saga in a way that I was like, okay, this was a good ending. Also, I have to say the comparison. Endgame came out earlier that year, and
That's true.
the scene with the ships, I did not enjoy. I didn't like it actually.
Oh yeah.
I really don't have much to say anymore about Star Wars.
Yeah, you guys talked a lot about how bad this movie was.
Saga is definitely the most hostile towards movies on this list.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's it for this episode of the Sleepless in Metropolis podcast. After this, though, on YouTube, if you go to it, we'll be doing an after podcast where we talk about The Mandalorian and do a full series review and what we hope for the second season and talk about the trailer. So just follow us on our social medias. And we'll see you next time.
May the 4th be with you.